Life can be tough. It throws some pretty big challenges our way. And for literally thousands of years, people have been trying to figure out how to deal with it all. Today, we're going to dig into some ancient wisdom that really gets to the heart of that struggle. We're going to distill a powerful sermon about the unavoidable truths every single one of us has to face. So let's just jump right in. All right, let me start by asking you something a little provocative. What if the real source of our deepest frustrations, our deepest sorrows, comes from wishing for things that are just fundamentally impossible? And I'm not talking about career goals or wanting a new car. I'm talking about the basic rules of reality itself. And here they are, the 5 things we can't have. These apply to absolutely everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a king or a street sweeper. We can't wish away aging, we can't wish away sickness or death, and we can't stop the things we love and ourselves from eventually decaying. Now, this isn't supposed to be depressing. It's just a plain statement of fact. It's about looking at reality clear-eyed.
So here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when we fight these truths? When we rage against getting older or refuse to accept a loss? The teaching uses this incredible metaphor. It's like being hit with a poisoned arrow. Think about that. The initial event is the first arrow, the pain. But our resistance, our struggle against what is, that's a second arrow, a poisoned one that we shoot into ourselves. That poisoned arrow, well, it creates a ton of suffering. But just how much are we really talking about? It's hard to wrap your head around, right? So this next idea uses a pretty staggering image to help us grasp the sheer scale of it all. Just let that sink in for a minute. The tears we've shed, grieving what's gone, wanting what we can't have, are more than all the water in all the oceans. Of course, this isn't meant to be taken literally. It's poetry. It's meant to make you feel the immense weight of this accumulated sorrow, this struggle against reality that we've carried for a very, very long time. So where does all this suffering happen? Well, in this worldview, it takes place within a concept called samsara. You can think of it as this endless cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. It's this idea that we're just wandering over and over through countless lifetimes, and along the way, we're accumulating this vast ocean of tears. Okay. So that leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If this cycle is so full of sorrow and struggle, why are we stuck in it? What is it that keeps this cosmic hamster wheel turning over and over again? Well, the teaching gives a very clear diagnosis. So let's look at the cause. The teachings say there are basically 2 specific mental forces. You can think of them as 2 invisible chains that keep us locked into this cycle of wandering and suffering. And here are the 2 main culprits. On one hand, you have ignorance. And this isn't about being uneducated. It's a kind of fundamental blindness. It's about not seeing things as they really are, impermanent and interconnected. On the other hand, you have craving. This is that constant itch, that relentless wanting and grasping and pushing away. It's the desire for things to be permanent when they're not, for pleasure to last forever, for pain to never happen.
You see how they work together? Our ignorance about how things really are fuels our craving for them to be different. And that craving leads us to act in ways that just tangle us up even more in the cycle, creating more opportunities for sorrow, more reasons to shed those tears. It's a self-perpetuating loop.
But here's the good news. This isn't just a grim diagnosis. The sermon doesn't just point out the problem and leave you there. It offers a solution. It lays out a very clear, very practical path to actually break these chains and find freedom. And the whole framework is built on what are called the 4 noble truths. It's a super logical progression, like a doctor's diagnosis. First, acknowledge a symptom. There is suffering in life. Second, identify the cause. It's fueled by craving and ignorance. Third, state the prognosis. There's a cure. It is possible for suffering to end. And fourth, write the prescription. Here is the path you need to follow to make that happen. Now that path, which is traditionally known as the Noble Eightfold Path, can be broken down into these 3 essential trainings. It's a step-by-step process. You start with ethical conduct, basically living in a way that doesn't cause harm to yourself or others. Then you move to mental discipline, training your mind through things like meditation to be calm and focused. And all of that lays the groundwork for wisdom, developing a direct, personal insight into reality that finally cuts through that deep-seated ignorance. And this is a really, really crucial point. This whole thing isn't presented as a bunch of doctrines you have to accept on blind faith. It's framed as a practical training program. It's a path you walk, something you do and experience for yourself, not just something you believe in. Okay, so to actually walk this path, you have to make a pretty profound shift in how you see everything.
And this final section uses this brilliant analogy to help us understand what it truly means to let go. So the Buddha asks his followers to just imagine this for a second. If someone came and took away all the grass, all the twigs, all the leaves from the forest you're sitting in, would you feel like they were taking a part of you? Would you feel personally attacked? Of course not, right? You'd recognize that the forest isn't you. And this is where it gets really mind-bending. The teaching suggests that we should learn to see our own bodies, our thoughts, our senses, and our feelings in the exact same way, as natural phenomena that arise and pass away, but that are not, at their core, me or mine. So this means everything we identify with so strongly, the eye and the act of seeing, the ear and hearing, the nose, the tongue, this physical body, and even the mind with all of its frantic thoughts, they are all part of this changing natural landscape. They are processes, not possessions. They aren't yours to own and control any more than the leaves in a forest are. And that leaves us with one final, very powerful question to sit with. Think about how much of our lives, how much of our energy is spent protecting and defending our bodies, our opinions, our very sense of self. But if all these things are ultimately not ours in the solid, permanent way we assume they are, then what exactly are we all holding on to so tightly?